Rainbows Are Circles, Episode 16. Today we're talking with motivational speaker Michael Arterberry about how to overcome adversity so that instead of being consumed by painful experiences, we can become empowered by them. We discuss the importance of making time for self-reflection, processing our emotions instead of bottling them up, and what it takes to move beyond the obstacles that life puts in front of us. I do believe that, as Tony Robbins says, life is happening for us, not to us. If you've been given a bad hand in life, it's because you're strong enough to overcome it. You deserve to live a good life, and you deserve to be happy. The challenges that you faced in your life can either bring you down, or they can turn you into an incredibly strong and powerful human being. If this resonates with you, you're going to love today's episode. Michael is honest, motivating, and he has such a positive presence. I hope you enjoy the interview. Welcome to Rainbows Are Circles, a podcast exploring human potential and everyday wonder. What possibilities open up for us when we explore life with optimism, curiosity, and an open mind? Join me, Julie Malari, as we wake up to wonder and speak with inspirational guests on the topics of personal development, alternative health, and even magical, mystical, yet often misunderstood practices. Are you ready? Yeah. Welcome back to Rainbows Are Circles, everyone. Life can be kind of hectic and crazy, especially right now. There's a lot of uncertainty in our world and global change happening. If we don't take the time to pause, breathe, and find our sense of inner calm, we can easily get swept up in the chaos of everything happening around us, which can cause anxiety, depression, and a lot of fear. So I'd like to let you know that I'm hosting a self-care class on Fridays this month, June 2020, so that we can come together and take just 30 minutes each week to give ourselves some quality time for self-care. The class will be a combination of meditation, gentle yoga, and creating positive intentions for ourselves. Again, that'll be on Fridays starting this month, June 2020. It may go beyond that, but it's going to be at 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. For more information, just visit my website, rainbowsarecircles.com. And now let's jump into our interview with motivational speaker Michael Arterberry. We actually recorded the very first video podcast for Rainbows Are Circles during this interview. So if you'd like to watch the video, you can find it in the show notes or simply visit my YouTube channel, which is called Rainbows Are Circles. All right, so welcome everybody to the first video podcast of Rainbows Are Circles. So happy to have you here, and we have a special guest, Michael Arterberry, on the show today. Michael is a motivational speaker, and for over the past 25 years, he's been helping teens and adults to use what they've gone through as a catalyst for success rather than an obstacle. Michael founded the Youth Voices Center in 2008, which is a nonprofit that helps young people to become active, productive members of society by overcoming their obstacles, their history, stereotypes, and even their own self-image and limiting beliefs. He's also the author of Be Encouraged, 250 Days of Motivation and Encouragement. So happy to have you on the show, Michael. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to get this opportunity for us to speak and for me to speak to your audience.
Wonderful. So, Michael, people who go into this kind of work, motivational work, encouragement, they usually have a pretty interesting story to tell that motivated them to do the work they're doing now. Can you share us a little bit about your story?
Yes, I would love to. So to do that, I'm going to tell a story to illustrate my story. So sit back and just listen. It's about a farmer and a donkey. All right. And so this donkey is one of his favorite farm animals because once he finishes working with the donkey on the field, he brings the donkey back home and he allows the donkey to play with his kids. So, imagine dad coming down the driveway. They come running out. They play with them. They wash them. They pet them. They ride them. And then he releases them back out to the farm. And this is like a normal ritual that they do. So one night he brings them down. They play. They wash them. He releases them back out to the farm. But the following morning when he comes out and he whistles for the donkey doesn't show up. So when the donkey doesn't show up, he's like, whoa. So he starts walking around the farm. He's whistling, calling his name, and he finally hears him making donkey noises at the bottom of an empty water well. See, during the night, the donkey was wandering and he fell into the well, and obviously he couldn't get out. So he's screaming, hoping that somebody would hear him. The farmer walks over. He looks into the well. He goes and gets 6 of his friends. And they're wondering, what do we do to get him out? So one of his friends said, let's get some rope and let's pull him out. So they all get rope and they start to lasso the donkey. They throw the rope, they miss. They throw the rope, they miss. They finally throw it by his hind legs. He steps into the rope. They shimmy it up his body and they start pulling. They pull, the donkey moves. They pull, the donkey moves. They pull, the donkey moves. Then halfway up the well, they realized that the donkey was too heavy. So they lower him back to the bottom of the well. And now the farmer has to make a grim decision. Now, see, he can't feed the donkey food at the bottom of the well because that wouldn't make any sense. And he can't starve the donkey because, like I said in the beginning, he's more like a pet. He had one of his hot-headed friends that was like, hey, just shoot him. He's like, no, I can't do that. That's too violent. So one of his more reasonable friends said, listen, you don't want your kids to fall into the well. So you're going to have to sacrifice your donkey, but we're going to be able to put some dirt on the donkey and make it safe so your kids don't fall in. The farmer thought about it for a second. He says, listen, all right, I don't want my kids to fall in. Let's do this. So they all get shovels and they shovel the dirt. And every time that dirt would hit the donkey would scream. And every time that donkey would scream, it would cause the farmer some distress. So you see the dirt, you hear the donkey scream. Dirt, you hear the donkey scream. Dirt, you hear the donkey scream. Then all of a sudden, the scream stopped. Now, when the scream stopped, they gave the donkey a moment of silence. But then they went back to work. Dirt, dirt, dirt. The next thing you know, you see the donkey's right here. They start shoveling cartoon style. Next thing you know, you see half the donkey's body. They start shoveling faster. And the next thing you know, that donkey walks right out of the well that he fell into. So check this out. Every time they threw dirt over the wall, it would fall on the donkey's back. He would shake it off and he would step on it. And he took every scoop of dirt that was meant to kill him to save his life. Now, I tell you that story because I am the donkey. And so what I want to do to start this talk off is I want to explain to you and your listeners my dirt. I grew up in a home with an alcoholic father. And if I said just alcoholic, it wouldn't be enough. He was a raging alcoholic. And he raged from the time I was born until the time he died when I was 16. So I want you to imagine growing up and never having any peace of mind in the sense of I had peace of mind, but during the day, there wasn't a day that went by that if I got lost in the peace, something would tap me on the shoulder and say, hey, buddy, don't you get too happy because what you got to endure when you get home is nothing consistent with what you're feeling right now. So growing up, I didn't really have any sort of peace. But on top of that, I lived in poverty. Now, it's crazy. Both my parents worked full time. My dad drove a bus. My mother was a housekeeper. She cleaned homes. But my dad's money went to drinking. And my mother was a housekeeper, so she raised 4 kids on a housekeeper's salary. You know what I'm saying? So, like, as far as having money, we didn't have much, you know. And I have to say, I was a good little boy because I never would ask her for things that I knew she couldn't buy me because I never wanted her to feel bad. But on top of not having money, dysfunction. Now, come on, you got a father like that that's leading your house. Your house is not functioning properly. You know, I remember nights when he would go bananas. You know, we would wake up the next morning. My mother would never debrief it. So you never got up the next morning and my mom would say, hey, you know, this is what happened last night. Let's talk about it. She just put your clothes on, you know, kiss you on the cheek, and you would have to take this to school. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of dysfunction, and my neighborhood didn't help because the people in my neighborhood had the same homes as I did. So we're all running in this circle. So I had buddies that were criminals. I had buddies that were drug addicts. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, as far as the outside resources and the things of that nature, it was consistent with what was going on in my home. But the silver lining to the story is this. All of that craziness, just like the donkey, I was able to shake it off, and I was able to live in it, but I didn't become it. And that is what motivates me to help other people, because I know that anything you go through in life, if you are able to look at it from the proper perspective, you can make it.
Wow. Oh, I got chills. Why do you think that you were able to bring yourself out of that and really create an amazing life for yourself? And other people seem to be kind of consumed by the bad things that happen to them.
So I'm going to tell you how I made it out, and then I'll, of course, say why other people don't make it. What I was able to do is I created a traditional family situation. First and foremost, I was an elite athlete. So my respite was the sports. See, my mom didn't put me into any counseling, so I started playing sports at the age of 8. And so I played basketball, baseball, football, and soccer from age of 8 till I graduated college. And I rotated those sports with no time in between. So to be honest, I was good enough that when I was a senior, I could have went to college for all 4, but I picked football because it was my favorite. But I'm telling you this because within that world, I created a traditional family because my coaches became my dad, my father figure. My teammates became my brothers and sisters. So I had the family unit, and the accolades from being so good at the sport became my support system. So when you say, how did I make it? I'm weaving through all of that nonsense that I told you in the Shaking the Dirt story. But in the midst of all of that, I'm being led just like a child would be led in a traditional home. So that's how I was able to make it. What keeps other people from not being able to make it is people are not honest with themselves. And that's what I teach within my program. And in when I have contacts with people, my motivation is we find power in our stories. And what I mean by that is that people go through life and they step on landmines and they don't realize that they stepped on a landmine, but damage occurs. And then what they do is they start to create a life consistent with the damage rather than making the repair. And so their life becomes a reflection of something that happened to them when they were young. And so people are unable to overcome what's happened to them because they create systems around the dysfunction rather than creating new systems to push them into a better light. But when you have landmines in your life and they go unaddressed, they start to evolve and show up in our lives. You know what I'm saying? So self-reflection, and that's what I teach, is to bring people back to areas. I tell them we're going to go back, and I put it up front. We're going to go back, and I want you to touch it and feel it, but then I don't want to allow them to stay there. So that's the rule. We're going to go back, touch it, but we're not allowed to stay. And I have control over the groups. If a student is about to leave me for the day and he or she is not out, we'll sit in that room until he or she has clarity. Or in some cases, if it's real bad, some of them don't go home. They go right to the, to the not a mental hospital, but they get evaluated. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So,
yeah. What do you think? What do you think is the main obstacle that keeps people from either staying in that stuck place or kind of moving up out of that place?
Because touching the wounds is painful. So let me explain this to you. So imagine I have a sister who grew up in the same home that I did. She's it's 60 something. And she goes to counseling. And she starts going to counseling. She drops it on me because I'm a social worker by trade, so she drops it on me. And then she hits me with the phone call. She's like, Michael, I'm enjoying it. So I'm happy for her because I know that clarity is the best thing. Then I get the call, and she's like, I'm not going back anymore. And now I'm like, sis, come on, you're making progress. And you know what she said to me? She said, I've gone 60 some odd years, and I made it. She says, I'm not willing to go back and touch those wounds. Mm-hmm. And so she chose to not go back and touch the wounds and continue to live a dysfunctional life rather than putting in the work. She can be here for 20, 30 more years. So I didn't lecture her, but what I wanted to say was, listen, can you imagine living such a better quality life the last 30 years of your life or whatever it may be? But that's why people are so hesitant, because going back to touch those wounds brings up some really, really hardcore visions.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, totally. So it's a willingness and a courage to be able to go to those really difficult emotional places in order to feel them and heal and then move beyond them. And that's hard. That's hard.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is.
And you've experienced so much pain.
Yeah.
Do you have like a tool that you could offer someone who is in a dark place or who is kind of going through, their own emotional pains? Like, is there a tool that you offer your students or your clients that you could share with us?
Well, with the students, it's what's unique is it's 4 days, but 2 days at a time, where it's experiential activities. So I have a host of them. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're with me for 2 days and I do different activities. So let me give you an example of one. One that I like to do is an activity that I call Who Am I? All right. So imagine you have 10 slips of paper, and I want you to take the 10 slips of paper and write down a word that answers the question and describes your personality. The question is, who are you? Both positive and negative. All right. So you write down the 10 words. All right. Once you get the 10 words down on the paper, I want you to prioritize them. So you stack them facing up from least important to most important. Once you got them stacked, least important to most important, flip them over. All right. So then now the most important on the bottom, the least important's on top. And then flip each word over one at a time and just, kind of do like we did in the beginning of the podcast. Look at that word, ingest it, digest it, work with it, crumble it up, and go to the next one. Go through all 10 slips of your paper. All right. Remember, we're starting from least important to most important. And then once all 10 are crumbled up in front of you, open them up and pick the ones you want to keep. And then the ones you don't want, put them crumbled up back in front of you. Mm. And let me tell you something. It will shake you to the core when you start to echo in your mind the person that you reflect into the world. When I do this with teenagers in my group, I have a script, so you have to meditate and kind of grab it. But when you're with me during my workshop, I'm reading a sentence. So I'm telling you, flip over your word. This word, how does this word affect your family? How did this word affect relationships? So I'm saying it for my participants, but at the end, I do just like I'm telling you through the podcast. I have them pick it up. But let me tell you, with teenagers, I have teenagers that start crying on like word number 4 because people don't do it. People that are emotionally not in a place where they want to be, they stay busy. See, they stay busy because the silence is what allows them to dive into whatever that thing is in their head. So you'll find people that are really like dealing with deep, dark issues. They don't never stop moving because the stopping of the movements makes them target and find time to think about what's really in their head.
Yes. Oh, I think that's why also that quarantine has been so hard for a lot of people, because now we don't have so much to distract us. We can't move around so much. So we're just like in our homes with like the people that we're with our thoughts, with our feelings, with our emotions. And some people are just like, can we get out of here already? But maybe this is what we need, this self-reflection time, right?
No, I know it is.
Yeah.
That's what the podcast that I've been on, when they ask, what do I feel about it? I think that this, for some people, this was a blessing in disguise. Self-reflection is, see, I can just spit it out because it's part of my DNA. So I feel bad because I'm going to say it and it just rolls off of my tongue, knowing that it's a challenge to a lot of people. But self-reflection is a tool that can help you just become, what I say is, I read a book by Bruce Wilkinson, and it talked about how we're all born with something we want to be when we get older. So when you find yourself being the little girl that puts on the dress and does the ballet stuff, you want to be a ballerina. But as life goes on, somebody convinces you that being a ballerina doesn't make enough money. It's not a job that's supposed to be secure. And so you'll stray away from that, do something totally different, and you will be miserable all your life. And so I feel like self-reflection is a time where you get centered. People are going to lose their jobs because of this, obviously. So my advice is, you know what? If I lost my job during this COVID, why go back and just collect a check? Go back to a job. Sometimes I laugh when I leave the places where I'm working at. Like if I leave a school, like I'm kind of laughing in the car on the way home because the people don't know that I would have did it for free. You know what I'm saying? Like they hand me money or send me a check. But the joke of it all is if my bills can be paid, I would do what I do every day for no money at all. And I think everybody in this world deserves that.
Oh, I think we all want that. That's awesome. Like if you can find that job or that activity that you would just do because you wanted to and the money didn't matter, just because you love doing it so much, that's ideal.
Yeah.
That's ideal. And yeah, it's like that question, like if you had all the money in the world and you never had to worry about it anymore, like what would you do? That's right. The thing ideally that we should be doing. And so it's about, I also think it's about like, how can we monetize the thing that we love if we don't have like, oodles of money? Like how can we monetize the thing that we love so we can do the thing that we love all the time?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, another thing that I thought about was I did this, we were talking about like quiet time and time for self-reflection. I went to India a couple of times in the last decade or so, and I did this 10-day meditation. It's called Vipassana. And it's a 10-day silent meditation. You go and you live in this like, just like this really simple place. You have like a bed and a small room, and you turn in your phone, you turn in any books, any journals, cameras, anything like that. You kind of turn it in when you go to this place for 10 days, and you meditate for 10 hours a day, 10 days straight, and you have little breaks here and there, and there's no talking. There's no eye contact with any of the other people. And it was such a crazy, interesting experience because like you don't have any distractions anymore. So it's like you have to look at everything that is inside you. You have to feel everything that you feel. You have no alcohol to distract you. You'd have no activities, no phones to distract you. So it was a really powerful experience because you just really realize all of these things, all these memories, thoughts, feelings come up that maybe you haven't dealt with or you haven't processed, and you're forced to look at them. And it's a very transformative experience, and it can be very difficult. Some people don't stay the whole time. They leave because they can't handle it. And some people, and before you come, they're like, you need to be in a place where you're mentally stable because you could flip out. You could, it could be also a little bit dangerous for some people that are really unstable, but it can also be a very personally transformative, self-reflective experience as well. So yeah, I just thought of that when you were talking about looking at your pain, taking time for quiet and self-reflection.
Yeah. I agree, definitely.
Tell us a little bit about the work that you do with youth.
Okay.
And if you go into a school or if you do a program with kids, how long do you work with them? What does the program look like? Walk us through that.
Okay. All right. So I want you to envision that you are a principal. So I'm meeting you, and what I do when I meet a principal is the first thing that I ask you for is I do 25 to 30 students at a time for my workshops. So I'm going to ask you for those students, but you have to send me a group of students that are a cross section of your building. So you have to send me white, Black, Latino, honor roll, jock, whatever the groups you have in your building to make up my group of 25 to 30 students. They come into the room. When they come in the room to meet me, I do everything in a circle. So they come in, they sit in a circle. I generally start with a picture of my home that I grew up in, which when you see the picture, it looks condemned, but I lived in it, boards on the window and everything. And then I show them the home that I live in now to show them that it can happen. There is progress. And I explain to them that a lot of life happened. I put the pictures next to each other and I show the gap. And I explain that there's a lot of life that happened between the gap. And I'm going to talk about it through our experience, but we're going to use our own stories to go through it. And I start to run them through experiential activities that I put together to peel back the layers. And I want them to be able, just like we've been talking about, to be able to self-reflect, start walking through that story. But at the same time, I want them to be able to build community with kids that they would never even talk to. You know what I'm saying? So, this is interesting. I just put up a video on my Facebook page with all this thing going on out in the world, being an African-American man. My feelings are a little raw. And so I felt like, I have a lot of followers. I have a group on Facebook, which is called Be Encouraged. But I woke up Sunday morning and I just wanted to kind of talk to him. And it was good because it wasn't like I was screaming and yelling, but I was giving my point. But I finished with this, and it's something I do with my students, and it's a point that I made in my video on Facebook. I do an activity with them, right? I call it concentric circles. So I put them in an inside circle facing out, an outside circle facing in. So remember, my group is cross-section, so you got everybody in there. I rotate them, but I first give them 5 questions. So check out, this is the first question. A person or people you respect and why you respect them. The second question is qualities you look for in a friend. The third question is, if you had the power to change something in the world, what would it be and why? The third question is a time you felt most hurt by someone you trusted. And the final question is a time that you lost someone that you cared about. They sound pretty basic. They heat up as they go. And I give those questions to them as they rotate through the circle. And they speak to 5 different people, all right, for 1 minute. After they speak to the 5 different people for 1 minute, I pull them back out to the group. And the first question that I ask them is, do you feel it? Now you say, what is he talking about? The essence in the room changes. 5 questions. We did it in about 20 minutes. And the whole essence of that room changes because when they came into the room, they sat in a seat and they looked around and everybody was just a face. They did 5 questions and they answered them. And each one of those faces became people. See, you can't treat a person like you treat a face. And what we build off of from that point forward is that when they leave me, I'm in the school to change climate. I may not be able to get it on a bigger scale the way I want to have it, but that student in my room will sit in the classroom, and when they look at somebody from a different race or ethnic background, they will have empathy that they did not have once they've gone through my experience.
That's so powerful. Yeah, because when we just see, when you just see someone and you don't know them and you've never spoken with them and maybe they're a different race than you, it's so easy to just judge people based on what they look like. But when we get down to it, when we actually just sit and talk to each other and connect, it's like, oh, we actually are really similar. We value a lot of the same things, and we've just gone through different things in our lives, but we're all just people.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you work, how long do you work with the same group of kids?
So what I do is my goal. So I get called to a school for many different reasons. So there's times that I get called because they're lately, okay, I have to be honest. Lately I've been called because of the political climate. Not talking politics, but a lot of the inner city kids, they're growing so much that they're sending them to other schools, and the people that now have to mix with them are not happy that they're there. So I'm called in a lot of the times to start to form relationships between the groups, just like I said, in the school, so that there's more peace. You know what I'm saying? So I say that because when I come in, my package is at least 6 workshops. So you figure 25 to 30 students in each group. That's a level 1 training. And then I do like 8 workshops. Then I do level 2. So then I'll do 2 groups where they volunteer to come back, and I run them through 2 more days and they become co-facilitators. And so I'm really in a school. A school won't just bring me in to do 1 workshop, put it that way. When I go into contract with a school, as long as the funding's available, our goal is to keep me there as long as I can be there so that we build on those numbers. But let me explain this to you. I do an assembly in the beginning so that I can download the language of my workshop to the whole building. See, I'm not going to be able to get to every student. So in my assembly, I drop the keywords I use in my groups so that if you never come into my group, but a kid comes into my group and he starts talking at the lunch table, you have some clue words that will keep you relevant into the conversation.
Okay, awesome. And you said you sometimes have you teach co-facilitators at the school. Like, do you take some of the students that are there and get them to be co-facilitators with you?
Once they finish the second 2 days, They're now eligible to be co-facilitators. So if I come to your school, I did the 6 groups, 2 groups of co-facilitators. The next year that I come and I get a new group, I have 3 kids from last year that co-facilitate the group for the following year.
Okay. Do you ever think, do you train people to do what you do so that
adults?
Yeah. Or maybe like the older teenagers that are maybe transitioning out of school?
No, never older, but I am always looking for my protege. It's me. Nah, you laugh. I'm serious. I if I find it, I'm gonna swallow it up. No, it's me. I do all the work. So what's sad is my reach is limited, but what's beautiful about COVID is because I've been locked in my home, I've developed an online course that now I can get it out to the world. But when I'm out in the world, I am the only one. I'm afraid to, I'm very protective over my program. And so I feel as if it has a great reputation because I facilitate it. So I never have to have someone call me up talking about I'm not happy with the product.
Right. Got it.
Yeah.
And you came up with the exercises and the tools, or were those things that you kind of learned as you were growing up and then kind of formed into the program?
What happened was a woman came to my job to do a staff development training. And it was pretty awesome. Like she was there for like 2 hours and I watched her transform my coworkers. So when she did that, I went up to her and I said, hey, listen, I want to get trained in this information. So listen, she says to me, on the inside, they train once a month. And on the outside, it's like 3 to 4 times a year. Now, you hear that language. You didn't pick up on anything when I said that, so I didn't either. So I fill out all the paperwork. I send it into the organization. They send me my paperwork. They send me directions to my training site, and I pull up to a maximum security prison. It was a prison program. So this woman got trained in a prison program. So now I'm in the parking lot. And I got to make a decision. I'm like, do I walk into this maximum security prison to get this jewel, or do I pull off and say, it's not worth it? And let me tell you something, Julie. I went in and the program was called AVP, Alternatives to Violence Project. And it was intense. Like you would team build with the inmates. These are convicted felons. This is a maximum. You would team build with the inside facilitators on Thursday night for like 3 hours. Then you would come on Friday. You would be with the inmates from 8:30 in the morning to 8:30 at night on Friday, 8:30 in the morning to 8:30 at night on Saturday. And then you would return on Sunday from 8:30 to 2:30. And it's manuals and manuals of information. But what I did is from that experience, now I'm watching it knock these convicted felons out the park. And I went to school for social work. So I'm sitting in the room, I have my life experience, I have my social work degree, and I'm watching this curriculum knock these guys out. So what I did is eventually I just took all their manuals and used my knowledge of life, and I plucked some out to create my curriculum, but then I added my sauce on it. So you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like in the beginning, I gave them a lot of credit because they introduced the flow to me, but eventually some would come to see it. It's nothing like what they do, but it has the essence and the feel of what they do. But that's how I was able to put my program. And my program's called Power of Peace.
Power of Peace. I love that. Such a cool story. Yeah. That's so funny that you showed up at the prison. You're like, I didn't sign up for this. But that's so great that you did it. You showed up, you went through it, and look at where that's taken you. That's pretty amazing.
Man, it was a phenomenal. And I'll tell you this, the first time I went in, the Sunday that I'm leaving, I cried like a baby driving there. Because now you got to imagine, I've spent all this time with these inmates. And, I grew up in Westchester. It's right outside of the city. And a lot of these guys are from the inner city. And I say it because we were moving in the same circles. I wasn't a criminal, but I'm college. I was in and out of the same clubs and everything. And I was emotional because I was them. They made a mistake and they're paying the price, but I was, them. And so driving on Sunday, I felt bad because they weren't really bad dudes. They just made bad choices.
Yeah. And a lot of times, like, when people are in prison, it's like, yeah, it's a bad choice. They made a mistake. Sometimes they're in there wrongfully, but sometimes they make bad decisions. But a lot of times those decisions are made because of the environments they grew up in, because of things that happened to them, because of ways that they've been hurt, because of maybe they didn't have support, maybe they weren't thinking right. It's like, I don't know. I feel like it's so important that people in prison get these types of programs and these types of help, because people don't become the way that they are, make the decisions that they make for no reason. So I think that's great that they're doing these programs and doing what they can to maybe teach people tools, to give people support that maybe they didn't have growing up from anyone.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I definitely agree.
So as we begin to wrap up, I was wondering, there's a lot of turmoil going on right now with the killing of George Floyd and the riots and the protests, and there's a lot of pain being stirred up, a lot of anger. And I was just wondering, what is the question I want to ask you? What do you want to say to the world right now amidst all of this turmoil and conflict? Like, is there a message of hope or encouragement or even peace that you might be able to share?
Yeah. And this is what I put on my video. Once I told them about that exercise that I do with my students, what people need to do now is stop, look in the mirror, and start answering some honest questions. All right. That person that you used to roll up on and they say, oh, I don't see colors. They can't say that anymore because we all see colors. You know what I'm saying? Let's be real. We do. Sometimes you get a right perception of it. Sometimes you don't. But we can no longer avoid the elephant in the room. You know what I'm saying? What was crazy is, for me as a black man, what I'm feeling with what's going on in the world right now is that I had to control myself. So anytime I felt like I was being treated a certain way because I was black, society puts you in a position that you can't verbalize it, because if you verbalize it too loud, you get labeled the angry black man, or you start to get thrown different things about, why should, I don't even want to get into the beginning of the conversation. So anytime that I felt that way, I would just have to swallow it. And I just learned to be able to put it places that I was, I felt like I was handling it well until I watched Mr. Floyd die. And what I said in my video is that when I watched him die, just like the world, something broke. Like it broke in me. And I was like, whoa. And so I say that because the only way we're going to move forward is that people have to ask themselves the honest question. But then if they don't want to be part of the solution, then separate yourself and don't be around me. Because you know what I'm finding on Facebook is that, real talk, I'm just hit you real. Yo, some of them people you sat around with that you thought were good people, no, listen, Julie, they was wearing masks. I'm watching people post and comment on things, and I'm like, yo, I used to sit at this dude's barbecue and drink a beer with you, And you wrote that on your wall? You know what I'm saying? So, listen, that conversation nobody ever wanted to have, we got to have it now. You got to have it. And if you hate, either you want to be part of the answer, or then listen, go off on your own, but I'm no longer going to allow that in my space. You know what I'm saying? So my message is be real, be honest. Be honest. If you want to integrate and create this environment that's conducive to change and harmony, let's do it. But if you don't want to do that, I'm really not into pretending anymore, because that I did it. I'm 53. I did it 53 years of my life. I'm not doing it anymore. That doesn't mean I'm going to be angry and walking into places with a chip on my shoulder, but I'm going to be able to walk in with the ability to be light.
To be light?
Light. Well, light in the sense of, and I remember who I'm talking to here, so I got to make sure I clarify that, because I know you and light. Me and you could probably sit and talk about light for about an hour, but anyway, I mean light in the sense of emotionally. Even though if I'm emotionally light, it allows my light on the world to shine even brighter. You know what I'm saying? So they go hand in hand.
The one question that's coming to my mind right now is, I think that's such a beautiful message. And there are a lot of people out there that are just feeling so much anger and hatred. What do you want to say to those people that to help them move through or above that anger and that hatred? How can we begin to see light and forgiveness and hope for peace when they're feeling so much emotion?
They have to spend time in the anger. See, this is the deal. And this is where they can overcome it. We've been told that you can't be angry. So before you make any moves to start moving to a place of peace, spend some time in the anger. That don't mean going out and looting and burning things up. I'm not talking about that. But you spend some quality time in that place. Be angry. Take the freedom of saying to yourself, I am mad. And once you take the freedom of saying, it's almost like they say with crying. Teenagers come to my group, and as soon as a tear drops out of their eye, the first thing they say is, I'm sorry. And I'm looking at them like, yo, what do you mean you're sorry? I'm like, it's a normal reaction. But somewhere in their world, somebody told them that if you cry, you're weak, and crying is something we don't do. And I'll get kids in my group that I know that haven't cried for years, and we'll hit something and they'll start talking and they can't even get it out of their mouth, Julie. They're drooling, snotch running out of their nose, and I tell them, stop. No, don't stop crying. Take your time. We're not moving. And they're trying to grab it, and I'm like, go on, wait. And I make them say what they're going to say with the tears coming out their eyes. And then after the 2 days they're with me, you always see them at the end of the second day, they look lighter because they've unpacked some stuff that's been holding them down for years.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, that's such a good point. People are taught not to cry. And it's sometimes crying and feeling that anger and feeling that sadness and just letting it come up. We need to do that. We need to let that energy move through us, or it just gets stuck inside. And then we just feel angry, intense, and like a ticking time bomb, all the time. We have to let those things flow. We have to let ourselves feel sad, feel angry, get upset. And so I think it's so beautiful that you said, spend some time in that. Don't be consumed by it. Don't be there all the time, but feel that. It's part of being human.
Yeah, it is.
And then once you can release those emotions, then it's okay, now I can move from a more centered, calm place and make better decisions instead of just being so like reactive all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. That's healthy.
This was so great, Michael. So do you do any, if people want to work with you or connect with you, what's the best place to get in touch with you?
Right now, they can, for my motivational speaking, I do motivational speaking as well. But so I have a website for that, which is michaelarterberry.com. I have a website for my nonprofit. So if you wanted me to come to your school, that website is youthvoicescenter.org. What I'm doing now is I have a really interesting Facebook group that I started called Be Encouraged. So if you come to Facebook, you look for the group Be Encouraged. You come and join, and that's my little community on Facebook where I come and I encourage on a daily basis. I give out some treats and things to, what I call my surrogate family. So that's a nice place to come and join with me. My Facebook page, which is Michael Arterberry, which you can put in your show notes. LinkedIn and, my social medias. And I'm the type of guy where I love the interaction. So, you send me a message. And, if it's just a message, we can handle it through writing. If you want to speak to me, I'll speak to you. But this online course is something that's going to be really powerful. What I've been able to do is I've been able to take some of the best jewels of my program and put it into 7 lessons where it will really give people the opportunity to do what we talked about in the beginning. I'm going to walk you back through your story and allow you to start to find those landmines, and what I do nicely is you do a lesson, you get into that space, and then I finish off your lesson, but with a video. And you get to see me. We get to not talk in person, but I walk you through it. So, I'm about to launch that in a few weeks. But those are some of the things that I'm doing, and that's how people can reach me.
That's so awesome. You're doing like really great work in the world. And I just think it's really nice to talk to somebody who is so passionate about what they're doing and just so motivated to help other people maybe move through some of the things that they have experienced as well. And you're changing like so many lives, and I'm sure you're going to continue to with these online programs and workshops. So one more question I had was, do you do out of state? Where are you located right now?
Connecticut.
So do you do any, I mean, maybe not right now with COVID, but do you travel and give these workshops?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Listen, once COVID lifts, the joke of it is wherever there's people that need healing, I go. I'm the type of guy a conference, an adult, the stuff that I do, I do adult workshops as well. So I get called into communities. And one thing that I will do, I'm sorry, not to hold up the ending, but I'm going to do conferences. So my program is 2 full days. I'm going to do what they call Shake the Dirt experience conferences. Will be an offshoot to the class where people can come to a hotel, spend 2 days with me, and we actually do it in person.
So cool.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome.
Awesome. All right. So I will have all your information on how to check out these programs and connect with you in the show notes.
Yep.
And I just wanted to say thank you so much for sharing all of this with us today.
And thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. Boop, 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 boo. Thank you for joining me on this episode, everybody. I hope that you felt as inspired as I did from this interview with Michael. If you're interested in learning more about him, or perhaps taking his online program, or hiring him to work with the kids at your school, visit his website, michaelarterberry.com, and you can also find him on Facebook. So all of his information, including a link to the video version of this episode, will be in the episode show notes. a reminder that we'll be holding our self-care class, our 30-minute class this Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Every Friday this month, June 2020, and potentially beyond these dates as well. That information is on my website, rainbowsarecircles.com. Until next time, everyone, take care, be safe, and have a magical day. Bam, 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 bam. Wow, 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 wow. Rainbows are circles, yeah.